think it's safe to say that it's not possible for us to have that incremental growth reach $5 trillion unless these gentlemen and the rest of India Inc. also start contributing. But the biggest question, of course, is, and I think everybody is asking, where's the money going to come from? So let me start with you, Mr. Rajiv Talwar. You know, in our session here with Mr. Rajiv Kumar of the Niti Aayog, I know you're representing one of the country's largest real estate developers. Your tagline is Building India. Having said that, you know, Mr. Rajiv Kumar did say that it's not going to be possible unless the housing sector picks up, unless we see a revival in the real estate demand. And you know, let's face it, one of the biggest ways that Indians have liked to save has also been the traditional way, ghar kharidenge, ghar ko rent mein dalenge. Are you getting any signals at all for a revival? Are you getting any positive signals from the government that they're listening, things need to change?
I think all journalists actually ask a question and which limits the scope of the answer.
Thank you.
Yeah, because basically the question is designed to give you an answer which they want.
Thank you.
So, but I really do feel that India is changing. There's a 30-year cycle which has been completed after globalization and liberalization. There were people who were Cassandras even then, especially after the Harshad Mehta incident. And everyone said, is it going to work? A 200 to 250 billion economy is today clocking in at 2.7 trillion. And there are many things which have changed, many cycles of industry which have gone through here, both of them over here. Real estate, yes, going through a very, very rough patch. There's a bloodbath taking place. Undoubtedly, what you said is true to that extent. But everyone has to change. There have been governments after governments, even after globalization, liberalization, and everyone acknowledging that Mr. Narasimha Rao actually changed the economic direction of the country. He did not get re-elected. There was a change. The first BJP government came into power. Then there was a change for 10 years. Delhi had a stable government for 15 years after the first BJP government in Delhi. Revenues went up from 3,600 crores to 40,000 crores today, and even perhaps even more of the government. So lots of new thinking to be done which is not coming in. People have to change. Industries have to change. Technology has to change. You've got a massive endorsement in the 2019 election from the electorate. This is the government which has a huge mandate because many people in the countryside have got some advantage or the other. We've been dealing over a past period. Rajiv Gandhi had said it, only 15 paise go there. Technology has changed, direct benefit transfer has taken place. What is going to happen in the world of real estate then? Is money going to come in or not? So we have to change. You've seen buyers' issues are the highest. The first responsibility, whether it is Mumbai, whether it is Noida, Greater Noida and some smaller other parts, you have to land up homes with the buyers at the same cost at which they were booked. Why have they not been delivered? Why did people not change? We've had to take pain, immense pain, but you did change. We did not announce a residential project from 2013 onwards. 2016, all the projects were completed. From 2017, we had a surplus stock of 15,000 crores being gradually sold, but completed buildings and completed projects being sold. We have actually been going for the last 1 decade to every minister, every housing minister. I can count 3 in the Congress government. We can count 2 in the present government and BJP 1 and 2. And we've also gone to the finance minister saying that, sorry, why can't you pass a rule that only completed buildings and houses or residential apartments need to be sold? That is why commercial real estate is in a sweet spot. Amex is booking land at 300 crores. You are getting a launch of a completed project with promised sales of about 700 crores in one evening. There is light at the end of the tunnel. I think the country is changing. We need to change our forms of economic organization, economic thinking. Yes, people read Raghuram Rajan, people can read Abhijit Banerjee. On the one hand, we can hear ministers, we can hear the finance minister. On the other hand, I think matters are more true on the side of the government. There is a change taking place. You will get money. Right now, one of the panelists is going for an investors meeting after this. I mean, you're getting $60 billion worth of FDI in real estate. There is money which is going to be there. I think projects have to be sold. Yes, banks are scared. I think they need to be charged up. They need to be funded more.
I think that's one of the biggest problems, that when you're seeing the current gloom and doom and the slowdown, it's also because the banks, for whatever reasons, and that would require a whole different discussion, are not lending. So Abhimanyu Munjal, if I could come to you now, you're representing a sector which I think nobody likes. It is your sector which has started this entire pain with INFS. Having said that, of course, we're not painting all NBFCs with the same brush. We still don't know how rotten everything is. Look at today's front page and what has come out as far as DHFL and possible links with a mobster and a terrorist, alleged terrorist. Are you seeing any changes? Has it been good for those NBFCs which have had a good run?
So, I think I like that sector. I'm sure people sitting on my left and right also like that sector.
And you're the only ones
yeah,
lending.
You said nobody likes,
no,
so
and
I would like to...
And the only ones lending.
I would like
to
correct you. I think there are a lot of people who like that sector, and there is a reason why. NBFCs form 25 to 28% of India's credit, right? Their outstanding today is 28 lakh crores. And if I look at the split between banks and NBFCs, it's 70-30. So NBFCs are a very, very vital, eminent player of the financial ecosystem. And if you go back a few years back, until September 21st, when IL&FS debacle happened, which you mentioned, if you go back, credit growth in India has grown double digit because of NBFCs. Before September 21st, NBFCs were growing at a pace of about 20%, whereas Indian credit was growing about 12-13%, which means banks were growing at a single digit. And if your GDP has to grow, right, you need credit growth. Someone has to fuel that growth. Some money has to come and fuel that growth. So, NBFCs are a very important part of the whole financial ecosystem. They cannot work in isolation. You need banks, you need SFBs, you need payment banks, you need mutual funds. You need a whole ecosystem to finance and fuel this growth. To your previous point, and which Rajiv tried to answer, but I'll answer directly. Do I see change? Do you think the regulator and ministers, the finance ministry is hearing? From NBFC perspective, yes, they are hearing. They've come out with a lot of reforms to ensure that NBFCs have enough liquidity, because they recognize that NBFCs play a role to serve the underserved, serve the underbanked, fund the non-banked. What the previous minister, he said in his last line, that the government's mandate is to bank the underbanked and fund the non-funded, underfunded or non-funded, unfunded. So they realize NBFCs does that. If you see our finance minister in her speech, her budget speech, I don't know for how many decades, a finance minister has used the word NBFC 18 times. And it's very big for the whole industry. And this was a talk that we've spoken about, that she realizes how important NBFCs is. And in a budget speech, she has mentioned the word NBFCs 18 times.
Since the crisis of INFS, and when we've seen the banks in a bigger soup than what they were before INFS, have NBFCs been able to rise to the occasion and lend more? You can't have an economy which is going to be vibrant if people cannot access home loans and car loans. You understand a thing or two about automobiles. You are from the Hero family. So while we even talk about this downturn, have NBFCs risen to the occasion?
So what we have seen as an industry perspective is that there has been a flight to quality. Right? there are very few NBFCs who've been able to rise. As an industry, it's been painted all with the same brush, which is very sad, right? And it's been painted with the same brush that all NBFCs are like, and hence there is a dearth of capital, which is coming in to NBFCs. So there are probably 10 names in the country which are lending today.
Okay.
And those 10 names cannot fuel India's $5 trillion.
No, we cannot become
vision.
5 trillion
Yeah.
banking on those. Suman Sinha, you're representing such an important sector as well, the energy sector, and particularly renewables. I think all of us are also becoming far more conscious about a better environment, cleaner fuel, and what we've even seen is a bit scary what we saw in Saudi Arabia and all of that. As far as renewables go, as far as the energy sector goes, are we perhaps seeing this sector being a little more vibrant than the rest of the traditional economy?
Thank you, Nayantara. Yeah, thank you, Nayantara. Thanks a lot to Times Now for inviting me to this panel discussion, or should I say ET Now as well?
Times Network.
Times Network, okay. Look, I think before I answer the question, I'd also like to sort of just address some of the discussions that were happening just before this. I think one of the key reasons why the economy is where it is right now is simply that we have very high real rates of interest. Today, inflation is at about 3 or 4% at best, right? The RBI's target is 4% plus minus 2%. So there is a plus 2% leeway that the RBI has as well. Unfortunately, if you look at our real rates of interest with the RBI's repo rate at around 5-point-something%, it's still about 2%. And that is actually causing a lot of stress on everybody in the real economy. On the real estate sector, if anybody wants to buy any homes, they have to pay a very high cost of interest. In my sector, if people want to invest in more renewable energy, we have to borrow from people like Abhimanyu here, and they charge us an arm and a leg. And so therefore, what ends up happening is that the tariffs that we expect to get by selling the power that we have, or the houses that Rajiv makes and sells to customers, those have to be priced very high, because otherwise it's very hard for us to get returns with the high interest rates that we have to pay. So I think this is one of the fundamental issues. And while the RBI has actually cut rates over the last, since the beginning of the year, it's really only been 1.3% or thereabouts altogether. And on a real basis, our rates are still at about 2% plus. Now, on an accommodative monetary policy, I don't see why real rates should be more than 0%. So we really can actually cut interest rates by another 2% at the very least, and we should just do it very fast, because we need some stimulus in the economy, and that has to either be monetary or it has to be fiscal. The fiscal side is very deeply constrained, and now with the government having given this big corporate tax improvement or benefit, therefore there is, that has actually constrained the fiscal space even more. But there's a lot of space on the monetary side. So I don't know why, as a whole system, we're not moving faster on that. That really is actually impacting us as a sector as well, because therefore we also find it hard to borrow. Right now, credit is just not available in the system. And it's not an NBFC issue, it's an entire financial sector issue. There aren't people lending, the public sector banks are not lending right now. They've all become very risk averse. They're all dealing with their own problems. And public sector banks, unfortunately, still account for 70% of India's savings. And so if they don't lend, then there's a large chunk of money.
There is a surgical strike which is
Yeah.
also needed on the banking sector,
right.
a structural
Absolutely.
reform surgical strike which
Yeah.
will get consumption back. Mr. Talwar, I know you'll say shoot the messenger again, but agar log biscuit nahi kharid rahe, wo ghar kya kharidenge, right?
Picture
Good, good lines again. What to say? There is I think, Sumant, you said it very well, that money is too expensive in India, and therefore money needs to be at a lower rate. I think the governor, RBI, is doing a great job. Corporate tax has been cut. We do need a cut in direct taxes in the personal income tax, because the urban middle class or the urban classes need to have much more money in their
We
hands
should
to
just
spend.
expect weekly press conferences, weekly kind of union budgets that have to
actually,
come
No,
out. or
not
stimulus
really.
measures.
Actually, that
No.
doesn't help at all. I think what you really require is a very clear-cut, articulated policy on the part of the central government as to what are the steps that they're going to take once and for all, and encompassing a number of different areas. Because this weekly thing actually does not address sentiment as well as it should. And so I think if we are actually able to put all the different things together and actually announce them as a package, that these are all the things that the government is doing, I think that will have a much bigger impact on sentiment, and sentiment is as much a problem right now as, let's say, interest rates are. So I think that perhaps would be a better thing to do for the government than to do these weekly announcements.
And plus the sectors that you energize will have a huge impact on rural earnings too. Because lots of labor comes in from there, especially in the real estate sector. So people will buy homes. There was a time when banks were giving loans at 6.5% to 8%. And today you don't have a home buyer who can get at 6.5% to 8%. Land is expensive. I think state governments need to make more land available. The central government and CPSUs. Railways is a big thing. Every railway town is a single-story junction. I think when you start raising heights over there, look at the example in Delhi. You can make 8 to 10-storied buildings with the same technology what we've been used to. It's actually the economy has to take on depth over here. And one big message, I think, which we are all trying, Sumant, you very rightly said that, yes, there should be a well laid out plan. For instance, I can say in real estate, rental housing, mortgage rates need to come down. Commercial estate is doing extremely well. That's where the money is coming in from, in billions of dollars. I think we need to get it into the residential sector. That, yes.
But that's also because of a trust deficit. But, that could also be a different discussion.
The rental
because,
policy,
builders didn't deliver.
some tweaking of the rules that you can buy as many houses when you sell one, capital gains kicks in over there, notional rent. I think these are some abnormalities which have taken place. Those can be set right. But let's build upon one central message which I think appeared for the first time in
But
any...
I think the big message coming in for the three of you also is that it has to be the government which will act first, and then it's going to be the private sector. The private sector has been lagging behind. The private sector has been stubborn in not wanting to increase investments.
it's both have to work in parallel.
That's it.
Both have to work in parallel, and we can't expect the government to just act. I think has to be change in our own businesses. We don't rely. One of the key factors of this economy downturn and macroeconomic is sentiment. Right? It's very clear. I've gone to villages, spoken to customers. He says, I have the money, but I don't want to buy a bike because I read in the newspaper that the economy is not good, so I should start saving. So media has to play a role,
for our business,
right? So media has to play a role in ensuring that the sentiment becomes very, very positive. There's enough money in the market. In terms of interest rate, I don't think
there's money in the market. It doesn't show with the
Yeah, because
advertising
because it
revenue.
doesn't.
And every sector is hurting. You are also reading what's happening in the media
See,
houses.
it
It's
doesn't-
all
it-
well and good to say and blame the messenger.
It
all the
doesn't
time.
come as the transmission doesn't happen. See, it's not the interest rates which will change the economy. Interest rates is just one part of it. The return expectation in Indian economy, whether it's real estate or future or renewable
Right.
energy, is far superior. And that's why those interest rates may make sense. Right?
And if I can say, the question about who should do first, should the private sector go first or should the government go first? I think the private sector is always going to be responsive to their own interests and to whatever stimulus they're getting from the marketplace. And if that stimulus is positive and tells us that, look, there is more need for capacity creation or there is more demand in the system, automatically you'll have a lot of money coming into India, corporates will start investing. But I think without seeing those signals and those triggers, unfortunately, the corporate sector is not going to be the first to just
Correct.
lead off. So you have to have the government stepping in, and especially in an economy like India, where the government still plays a disproportionately large role in the economy. So you will need to necessarily have the government coming in and actually providing those signals, taking those steps, giving those clear guidelines as to what they're going to do, and create the right enabling environment for investments to start and for consumers to start buying.
And I think we'll need many more platforms like this to also brainstorm and decide what is the way forward so we can have incremental growth and have that vision of a $5 trillion economy. That's, of course, India Inc.'s perspective. They want the government to do a lot more and do it in tandem with India Inc. Thank you.